Larry Ogunjobi. $7 million the Pittsburgh Steelers would save if they moved on from the defensive tackle. 62%, 62.5% chance that they do in 2025. Larry O has been a starter since the second he walked in the door. He was the savior to the sudden retirement of Stephon Tuitt. He was supposed to be the guy. And to be honest with you, I get it. He never turned into the Pro Bowler. He was never the All-Pro. He never was the big, scary, this guy is an absolute stud that he was in Cincinnati and for a little bit in Cleveland. But he still saved the Steelers from a very difficult situation, a very hit you right in the face. How do we recover from this rather quickly situation? And I think that has to be acknowledged, that at the end of Larry O's tenure, whether it's this season, next season, whenever, he stepped up big for the Pittsburgh Steelers in a moment where they needed somebody to step up big. 62.5% chance, $7 million the Pittsburgh Steelers would save. The other two here, Isaac Seumalo, Pittsburgh Steelers would save $7.8 million, 62.5% chance they move on. My only issue here, and I think with Larry O, you could replace him. His name's Keanu Benton, and then you go find a nose tackle. That would be my plan. That would be my plan of action with Larry Ogunjobi. I mean, I think Larry O goes and gets a job somewhere. If you want to reduce Larry O's cap hit and make him a backup, great, but I think he's a starter on a lot of teams out there. My big thing is Keanu's got to move over. It's time for Keanu Benton to be a defensive end, defensive tackle, work that properly, and be a much bigger factor for the Steelers defense than he has been the last two seasons. You can't wait anymore. You're holding a guy back who has superstar potential and who shows it plenty of times throughout the last 2 years. You'd have to go get a nose tackle, but I think you could go get one super cheap, and then you'd have to figure out your depth, which I, again, think is very possible. Isaac Seumalo is on the other side of this, where if you cut him, you have to have a replacement plan. You can't just cut Isaac Seumalo and say, Spencer Anderson's the answer. I like Spencer Anderson, and if Spencer Anderson develops into a starter, great. But if he doesn't, and he's a reliable backup, you need a starter, and you need one immediately. And maybe you could go get one for $7.8 million, but maybe you can't. And I get it. The Steelers want to add some cap space. They want to work some things out. There are ways to do this. Isaac Seumalo comes with a giant question mark, and that is, who is your starting left guard in 2025? And you better have a good answer, because your offensive line was brutal down the stretch, and you need to figure that out. And then number 3 on this list, and man, dude, I wish there were some people in this chat right now that were here for this, because this one's going to hurt a little bit. Cole Holcomb. The Steelers would save $6 million, and Spotrac gives them a 76.5% chance of moving on from the inside linebacker. I would imagine this means Landon Roberts comes back, which wouldn't surprise me at all. Mark Robinson is back, and maybe Tyler Matakevich returns to the lineup as well. Or the Steelers try to go young, and they use another middle draft pick to get a guy that they could form or try to develop into a Tyler Matakevich special teamer, Mark Robinson, bottom of the depth chart guy who grows over time. But you're looking at Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, and Landon Roberts as your starting 3 if you move on from Cole Holcomb, which comes with question marks, because I like all 3 of those guys, but let's not act like this inside linebacker group was just this sturdy, no issues group in 2024. They were not. They had issues. They made mistakes. There were times where you went, oh my gosh. And Patrick Queen dealt with all the criticism in the world. Peyton Wilson did as well from time to time. And Landon Roberts is Landon Roberts, but he didn't look very good in the, I take that back, for sometimes in the Baltimore Ravens playoff loss. He didn't look great. Other times he looked fantastic. I just look at it and say, you're leaving a question mark there, but is that question mark going to get handled with Cole Holcomb? Who knows? Larry Ogunjobi, 62.5%. Cole Holcomb, 76.5%. Isaac Seumalo, 62.5%. Overall, you'd save just over $20 million between the two if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Your thoughts? All right, football fans, things are getting real. Whether your team has made it to the conference championship or not, there's still plenty of ways to enjoy the games. Get in on the action right now with my partners at DraftKings Sportsbooks. They're offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly by just betting $5. Don't let this slip away. Download the DraftKings app now and sign up using our code ALLSTEELERS. The crown is yours. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same game. Love the thrill of live betting? DraftKings has got you covered. Bet live in-game progress right as they are happening, making watching the games that much more exciting. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ALLSTEELERS and bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code ALLSTEELERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
I agree with your sentiment on Isaac Seumalo as of what are you doing in the meantime? It's not like they have other veterans, right? They're expected to not re-sign Dan Moore, so he's out the door. They're not expected to re-sign James Daniels, so he's out the door. Are you going to draft a left guard and all of a sudden be rookies, second-year guys, and one third-year guy and Broderick Jones, and that's your offensive line? I don't think that's a good idea. And I think that if you're going to go out and just say, all right, well, we'll just replace him. We'll get another veteran. Why do that when you have the veteran in-house that knows the system, that knows the other linemen, and that has built at least a little bit of chemistry? I think that has to be one of the biggest reasons the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line didn't work out this year, is because, well, they weren't able to get on the same page until week 8 or 9 of the season. And by the time they got to the end of the year, or by the time they got to this long stretch against very good defensive fronts, they were just not quite there and not quite ready for it. So I don't understand the reasoning behind cutting Isaac Seumalo, except for saying, hey, we need to pick 3 cap casualties, and his makes a little bit of sense. The other two are interesting. We've been cutting Larry Ogunjobi because of his salary cap spot for 3 years now. So will they finally do it? Maybe now, because they're actually going to be able to prioritize adding that position high in the draft, not just, hey, we're going to go get Logan Lee late in the draft and maybe he'll turn into something. They're going to probably prioritize his position early in the draft, which makes sense as to why they might finally pull the trigger on getting rid of Larry Ogunjobi. And then there's Cole Holcomb, which that is going to be one of the most underrated stories to follow all offseason long, because if you're going to cut him, why did you hold on to him all year as he was rehabbing that knee injury? Were you doing it out of the goodness of your heart? I mean, typically professional organizations don't just do that. So why did you hold on to him through all of this rehab if you're just going to cut him this summer? And again, like you mentioned, are they going to invest in that position whenever they have holes in other positions right now in the draft? I would think not. I think you expect Peyton Wilson to make a massive step in year 2, because you expect all players to take a massive step in year 2 when they finally have that full off season to be able to just build and build and build. And they don't have to go through the draft process. They don't have to go through the combine. So yeah, you expect Peyton Wilson to be better. Do you expect Patrick Queen to be better? I would hope so. Year 2 in a system, you would expect that to be better. But I could see them holding on to Cole Holcomb, because in the back of my mind, if they were going to get rid of him now, why did they hold on to him for all this time? So Holcomb, I would say, unlikely. I would say that's a little bit of a overreaction on the part of Bleacher Report. Ogunjobi, it finally makes sense. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but it finally makes sense. And Isaac Seumalo, it makes no sense to me to go out and cut him.
I agree with Seumalo, unless you're going to do something crazy like keep James Daniels. But Kaboli said it the other day, James Daniels hasn't been around all season, and the Steelers told him before the season that they weren't ready to negotiate, and chances are they weren't going to renegotiate. It just kind of feels like you're just moving on from that one, and he's going to be expensive, and he's coming off a torn Achilles. Questions there. Cole Holcomb, I wonder what the PUP list, because I've never dealt with a PUP list player throughout an entire season. I wonder what that does to your salary hit. I wonder if it removes the salary hit, because if it does, that's an interesting case, but I don't know. I've never dealt with that. I've covered the Steelers for 6 years. They've never gone into the season with the pup player ever. And I wonder what that does. If it doesn't do anything, I agree with you. Why are you just keeping him around? Why wouldn't you move on from him a year ago? Unless you're just being a good person and saying, hey, you could rehab here. But there's got to be a reason that you kept him around. He was in-house. He was on the sideline during games. He had a headset on. Like, Cole Holcomb was involved in the Pittsburgh Steelers defense all season long. You got to think that meant something. And you got to think that the Steelers had a lot of hope in him coming into it. $7 million, I get it, or $6 million, I get it. You could save it. I think you could save it other places. You could renegotiate deals. You're going to extend TJ Watt. That's going to lessen his cap hit next season because it's going to be a big, giant signing bonus. I just feel like Cole Holcomb, I agree with you there. It makes sense on paper. Once you dive into it, you go, it doesn't really. There might be reasons to say that that's probably not going to happen. Larry O, I'd be shocked if he's here next season. Would be shocked. It just feels like Mike Tomlin and everybody else is saying they're going to blow it up. Everything's going to be different. There's going to be all these changes, and you're going to pick, like, you're not going to get rid of Larry O. It just, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you're going to get rid of guys like Cam Sutton, if you're going to get rid of guys like, I don't know, Michael Pruitt and Cordero Patterson and Dean Lowry and DeMonte KZ and all these guys that potentially are gone this offseason, Larry O seems to fit in that mold of, like, there's probably an improvement here somewhere and we can find it. And the easiest answer is Keanu Benton, that somebody's got to be sitting there going, yeah, maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to put Keanu out there. And I would imagine that's an easy one. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Those are the three. I agree with you on three of them. I expect more of them. But the Steelers have $52 million, and you could look at names, man. There are a lot of names. And I mean, you save $2.8 million by cutting Cordero Patterson. You know what I mean? You're only paying one punter this season, which is massive. You save another 2.5 by cutting Dean Lowry. You could save, let's keep it going here. I'll just go down the list you're going to save 1.1 by getting rid of Corliss Waitman. You're going to save, I don't know. I guess Cam Sutton's not on here. But there are names, there are restructures. Oh, you're going to save 13.4. You want to talk about a cap casualty? You want to talk about a real life, there is no questions asked cap casualty? You're saving $13.4 million if you get rid of Preston Smith. I mean, yeah. Preston Smith's not going to be on the roster in 2025. That is, if you bought a jersey, I apologize, but he's not going to be on the roster in 2025. There are ways to make a lot of money for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're going to dive into it.